Democratic Congresswoman Emilia Sykes of Ohio. Welcome, Congresswoman. Congresswoman, you are a member of the Problem Solvers Caucus. And the Problem Solvers Caucus, you know, self-evident, name is self-evident. You all try to solve issues and work across the aisle in a bipartisan fashion. I would argue this is what all of Congress should be doing, but that's neither here nor there. Is there any indication that there are enough of your colleagues in this caucus to work with Democrats and fund the government?
Absolutely. And thank you for having me on. This is such an important issue, and I do hope more people get involved with how can we prevent our government from shutting down. The Problem Solvers Caucus, we met earlier this week, and we are dedicated to work with anyone from either side of the aisle to make sure that our constituents are not impacted by a small group of extremists who are willing to shut down the government. And we are putting forth and have put forth a framework that'll keep the government running, that'll ensure that we follow through with the debt ceiling conversations that we agreed to earlier in the year, allow for there to be border security, something that I hear a lot of people being concerned about, including Speaker McCarthy, and really make sure that we are fulfilling the promise of the American people, which is doing our job.
So the Republicans within the Problem Solvers Caucus, have they gone to Speaker McCarthy and asked him to work with Democrats? Because the Democrats that I have talked to, I had Joe Neguse on the show yesterday, he noted that, look, Republican leadership has not come to Democratic leadership yet to say we want to make a deal.
So, from my understanding, they are very much engaged, the Republicans and the Problem Solvers, with encouraging their leadership to work with Democrats or just within their own conference in order to get the votes that are needed. But remains the same is the commitment from the Democratic caucus. As a member of the Democratic caucus led by Hakeem Jeffries, we are still working, continuing to work. They told us that they may need us this weekend. There are many of us who are still here this weekend who were ready to get to the drawing board to start figuring out how we are going to fund our government. Ultimately, it is our job to do this. People in our constituents, in our communities across the country are relying on us to do this. We just need to do it for the American people.
Speaker McCarthy has been, I would like to say, threatened with a motion to vacate by members of his own caucus. Is there any indication that there is a real potential motion that will be filed, or is this all just talk right now?
Well, we saw one in the bathroom on the campus other week, but I don't know. This could be a bluff, but I personally do not care about what is going to happen within the Republican caucus. I'm concerned about the people in Ohio's 13th congressional district and whether or not they're going to be able to get their Social Security payments. I'm concerned about our military veterans, our military service members who are going to have to continue working without pay. That's why I introduced a bipartisan bill to make sure that they could get paid in the event of a government shutdown. I'm concerned about our constituents and the folks across the country who are not going to be able to eat. Again, a reason why we introduced the Feeding Our Families Act with one of my colleagues from Northeast Ohio, Shontel Brown, because people are going to suffer real consequences if the Republican caucus can't get it in order. I'm confident in my colleagues in the Democratic caucus that we will come together and do what we need to do in order to work for our constituents. It's our values. It's what our leadership tells us to do. It's what we are here in Congress to do. I just hope that we can get the Republicans to do the same.
I think your confidence is hopefully comforting for folks out there. Let's talk about the folks in your district. Akron, Ohio is in your district. The chair of the Greater Akron Chamber warned about the impact of the UAW strike on the area, given its roots in rubber and also manufacturing. So, I mean, how are your constituents reacting to the strike? Are you in touch with UAW members in your district?
We are a proud union community. Northeast Ohio got its start. The middle class was built because of union leadership, whether it was in steel mills and auto manufacturing facilities or in rubber, because we were the rubber city capital of the world. And folks are concerned. They want to make sure primarily that the workers at the big three plants are getting their just payment, the conditions that they have been working for and fighting for, because they've made a lot of people very rich. Meanwhile, their wages are stagnant. Their conditions are troublesome and sometimes problematic, and they're just asking for fairness, and it's not too much to ask.
I went through at the top of the show about the triple whammy that's staring the American people in the face. What do you say to constituents that are concerned? They hear you on that you've introduced legislation, but if the legislation has not become a law, they're still going to be faced with issues. So what do you say to folks that say, look, I hear you, but we need relief right now?
I hear them, and I want to make it very clear that while we're working to do things, there are just some forces that are refusing to allow progress to be made. But that will never stop my commitment to my constituents and the people of this country. We are making ourselves available to our constituents, so if they have questions, they are more than willing to. They can talk to us about it. We're doing a telephone town hall just this week so we can keep people informed about what I'm doing here to make their lives a bit better. But ultimately, who is in the position to make these decisions is who we all vote for every election cycle. And if you are not seeing if you are not liking what you're seeing, let's remember this next November.
Well, I will note every member of the House of Representatives is up for re-election next November. Speaking of 2024, quickly in the time I have left, lots of news about polls today. NBC News is out with a new poll. There's this other poll that's out there that is an outlier from ABC News and Washington Post. Just in general, what are you hearing in your district when you are talking to folks about how they feel, one, about this economy, but two, about President Biden? Because the polls are saying a lot. I want to know what the people are saying.
Well, people are concerned about how much everything costs. That is the number one concern I hear, whether it's gas, groceries, housing, college tuition. People are stretching their dollars very thin.
Concerned enough not to support the president, vice president re-election?
Well, I'm not quite sure about that, because I think they're seeing with this government shutdown where people are. I think we're seeing people in our communities recognize that the striking workers are on the right side, that corporate greed is keeping people from getting more money so that they can even keep their wages in line with inflation. So we have a lot to navigate, and I know people are smart enough to figure out it's not just one thing. It's not just one lever being pulled. You started the conversation about these three issues happening at once, and we're feeling them all at the same time. But what people want to see is leadership. They want to see honesty and sincerity from their elected officials, and that's what we're going to show them. Many of us are dedicated to doing so. I'm dedicated to doing so, and I promise my colleagues, my constituents, that I'm here to work, and I'm here to work for
Well,
the
you
people
are here this weekend,
Yes.
ready to be called on. Congresswoman Emilia Sykes, thank you very much for coming
Thank
in.
you.
And I hope y'all fund the government.
Yes, ma'am.